The email came at 8:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. Subject: regarding your return from active duty. Brody Carter blinked twice at the screen in disbelief. He had just stepped into the break room of Sentinel Advanced Security, the private defense firm he helped launch 7 years ago, a place built by veterans for veterans. His duffel bag still sat unopened beside his desk, his boots freshly shined, his back still aching from the 14-hour flight. He hadn't even had a sip of coffee yet. He opened the email. Dear Mr. Carter, as per internal review, your role has been reassigned to Director Jake Monroe, effective immediately. You are advised to clear your remaining personal items by EOD. Should you wish to reapply for a consultancy role, contact HR. Welcome back, and thank you for your service. Sentinel Admin, HR Dept, Jake Monroe. Of course. Brody stared at the screen, jaw tight. Jake had always been ambitious, too ambitious. Former Ranger, former friend. And apparently, a snake with a silver tongue. Brody's last report from Qatar, the one that secured a $3.5 million government subcontract for Sentinel, had been labeled co-authored. Jake had gotten the credit. He didn't scream. He didn't throw the monitor. He simply stood, left the break room, and walked out the front doors of Sentinel, for good. Then he checked his phone. 1 bar, refresh, 2 bars, signal, 17 messages loaded, all from unknown numbers, except the last one. It was from Madeline. Don't come home. The locks are changed. The kids don't want to see you. It's over. Brody stopped on the sidewalk. The morning sun flared against the Atlanta skyline, blinding and impersonal. A garbage truck rumbled past. Someone laughed on a call behind him. He stood motionless. 12 years, 2 kids, 4 deployments. And that's how it ended? Not even a voice, just text. His thumb hovered over the reply field. Rage burned behind his eyes. He typed the only words he could trust himself to say, "As you wish." Anyone who knew Brody Carter would understand. That was the calm before the storm. 2 hours later, he sat across from Leona Fisk, the divorce attorney whose name sent corporate husbands into cold sweats. Her office was a fortress of glass and chrome, perched 33 stories above downtown. Leona herself was everything Brody remembered. Platinum blonde, sharp-boned, razor-witted. "So," she said, not looking up from her screen. "She waited until you were boots on ground before pulling the plug. That's cold?" Brody nodded. "I need options. Fast." Leona tilted her head. "You didn't answer her message with threats or drama. Just, as you wish." Her eyes flicked to him with new interest. "Huh, I like that." "I don't want her back," he said. "I want leverage." "Then you came to the right woman." For the next 90 minutes, they mapped out a campaign, a full-spectrum legal strike. "First," Leona said, "we issue a discovery request. We pull financials, we subpoena bank activity, we audit the trust. Her father's estate probably had loopholes. She thinks it's all hers now." "That's the mistake," Leona smiled thinly. "Narcissists always leave paper trails." "Especially the ones with something to hide," Brody added. "Was there someone else?" He nodded. "His name's Preston Lane, real estate, clean suits, clean nails, drives a midnight blue Audi." Leona smirked. "You already checked?" "My friend Wyatt's been watching the house." "You don't waste time." "I never do." She slid a contract across the table. "Sign this. We start tomorrow." Brody signed without blinking. That evening, Brody sat in a small corner suite hotel room, staring out at the Atlanta traffic below. His phone buzzed. Voicemail. 3 new messages. Text. "What did you do? Answer me. You can't just disappear." Then came the photos from Wyatt. Midnight blue Audi, 10:37 p.m. Pulled into the driveway like it owned the place. Preston Lane stepped out, slick haircut and tailored coat. In the last photo, Madeline greeted him on the porch. Not a kiss of discovery, but comfort, familiarity, Ownership. Wyatt's caption read, "Real estate. In your house 6 times the last 2 weeks." Kids know him. They call him Uncle P. Brody closed his eyes, not in anger, but calculation. He slept better that night than he had in years. 9:17 a.m. The next morning. Phone call from Melanie's lawyer. "Brody, this is Martin Rutherford. You had no legal authority to freeze that trust." Brody sipped his coffee. "That's extortion. You can't just—" Click. Leona had filed the injunction, based on a rare clause, dormant spousal access revocation in case of willful domestic displacement. Translation: when Madeline told him not to come home, she legally voided her own protection. Later that day, Brody met with Wyatt at an old veterans diner on the edge of the city. "She's not just cheating," Wyatt said, sliding over a flash drive. "They're planning a move." "Costa Rica?" Wyatt nodded. "Property down payment, private school inquiries. They're vanishing next month. Do the kids know?" "Not yet." Brody leaned back, let it sink in. "Time to bring in Bentley." That evening, Brody's phone rang again. This time it was his son. "Tyler?" Brody sat up. "You okay?" There was a pause. "Did you really come back?" "Yes, kiddo. Mom said you didn't want us anymore." Brody felt his throat close. "That's not true." She said the Army mattered more." "I served for you," Brody said. "Every mission, every mile." Tyler whispered, "Preston's not you. He tries, but it's fake. Emma believes him. I don't." They fell silent. Then, "Are you going to let him win?" Brody's voice dropped. "No, son, I'm not." Later that night, Brody stood outside his former home. Street empty, lights off. He used the old key. It still worked. Inside, everything had changed. Cold colors, soulless art, all signs of him scrubbed clean. But the house knew. In the office, behind a painting, the safe. He retrieved only one item, a sealed envelope addressed in Madeline's father's hand. Insurance. He placed the key, the one she said no longer worked, carefully on the kitchen counter, then walked out. Not a goodbye, not a retreat, a warning. If you've ever been cast aside after giving your all, if you've ever watched someone steal the life you built, type 1, because sometimes the calmest man in the room is the most dangerous. And Brody Carter had just begun. The bank notification came at 6:12 a.m. Transaction alert, $178,350. Description: Interior Renovation Transfer, Lane Property Group, LLC. Brody stared at the screen. The address listed wasn't unfamiliar. It was his house, or what used to be. The recipient? A shell company registered to none other than Preston Lane. He tapped the screen. The routing number led to Madeline's trust fund account, the one Leona had frozen last week. Except, Brody's breath stilled. The transaction was dated 1 week prior to the injunction. They'd known. They'd been rushing to drain the funds before he could react. And they had succeeded. He called Leona immediately. "Check the trust ledger, renovation payment." She was already typing. "Yeah, I see it. And, wow, that's bold. She funneled it into your shared mortgage line before the freeze. That house is still joint property, Brody. They're remodeling my house with money from her lover." "Correction," Leona said coolly. "They're remodeling your asset, and you're going to use it." An hour later, Brody parked outside the property next door to his own. The real estate marker had been taken down, replaced with a discreet bronze number plate. He stepped out, camera phone in hand, and began taking photos. The door opened behind him. Preston Lane stepped out, holding a to-go coffee cup, his shirt open at the collar. "Well," Preston said with a thin smile, "I suppose it was only a matter of time." "You look tired," Brody replied calmly. "Renovating 2 properties at once will do that." Preston chuckled. "I don't believe we've officially met." "Oh, we've met," Brody said. "Through your credit card records, your rental car logs, and now your shell companies. Preston's smile faltered. That's quite a breach of privacy. So is sleeping in my bed. A flicker of tension crackled between them. Preston stepped forward. You need to let go, man. Madeline's moved on. The kids are adjusting. You clinging to this? You don't talk about my children, Brody snapped, voice low. Not ever. Preston raised his hands mockingly. Look, I'm not the enemy here. You're right, Brody said, turning to go. You're the target. Back at Leona's office, the documents awaited him. Architectural plans, building permits. Date stamped 14 months ago, 4 months into his last deployment. They were planning this, Brody muttered, flipping the pages. Not an affair, a transition. Leona nodded. They're connecting the two properties, tearing out the boundary wall, creating a single estate. Replacing me. Physically. She hesitated. I also ran your wife's financials. And? Preston transferred $200K to her account 3 months ago. That's marital property. And she used it to refurnish your house. Every piece of furniture, even the fridge. Brody's hands curled into fists. Find me something stronger, something that gives me leverage over custody. Leona leaned forward. Courts favor mothers, Brody. No, he said. They favor stability, and I'm going to prove Madeline has none. Meanwhile, Sentinel was starting to boil. Jake Monroe had been publicly congratulated for securing a secondary government contract Brody himself had drafted before his final tour. His name had been scrubbed from the proposal files, but it was Tyler's voice that hurt more. I found your photo, the teenager had said quietly during their second call. Hidden in Mom's closet. She told Emma you didn't want to be reminded of us. Brody had no words, only resolve. He scheduled a surprise meetup with Tyler after lacrosse practice. The field was almost empty when Brody approached. Tyler, still sweaty and flushed from drills, stopped in his tracks when he saw him. Dad? His voice cracked. I needed to see you. Tyler looked uncertain. Mom said... I know what she said. The boy's jaw tightened. You left. I didn't choose to be gone, but I chose to come back. For you. There was a long silence. Are you getting divorced? Brody nodded. It seems that way. Tyler stared at the grass. Because of Preston? Partly. I hate him, Tyler muttered. He acts like he owns the house, acts like he's helping, but Emma thinks he's great. You don't? He grabbed me last week, Tyler said suddenly. We argued. I wouldn't let him in my room. He yanked my arm. Brody's blood ran cold. Did he hurt you? Tyler looked away. Left bruises. Does your mother know? No, I didn't want to make things worse. Brody crouched. You never protect an abuser, ever. I didn't think you cared anymore. I will always care, always. Tyler nodded slowly. Then don't let him win. Later that night, Wyatt called. Got another nugget? You sitting? Brody sat. The Costa Rica property they're moving to? I checked the registrar. It's not listed under Preston. It's owned by a holding trust registered offshore. But the paper trail links to Madeline. Brody raised an eyebrow. He's insulating himself. More than that, Wyatt said. She's being set up as the financial front. If this goes south, she'll take the hit, not him. Brody felt something twist in his gut. Not pity, but something close. She has no idea, Wyatt added. She thinks she's moving into paradise, but she's the one who's going to lose everything. Brody turned to the envelope from Madeline's father. The unfiled agreement, the clause that protected Brody's military assets in case of divorce. It was notarized, legal, just never submitted to the estate's trustees. Until now. The next day, Brody returned to the house while Madeline and Preston were at a gala. The door still opened with the old key. They hadn't replaced the locks yet. Inside, the changes were even more jarring. Every family photo, gone. Every sign of his existence, erased. He climbed the stairs quietly. Tyler's room was mostly the same. Messy. Alive. A fishing photo of the two of them still sat on his desk. Emma's room, by contrast, looked like a hotel suite. Clean, impersonal. On the bulletin board, a photo of her with Madeline and Preston at a ski resort. A perfect family. Without him. Downstairs, Brody paused by the kitchen. He placed the old key, the one they'd forgotten to cancel, squarely on the marble counter. A message. I was here. I still am. Back in his hotel, Harris Bentley's report was waiting. Preston Lane's public record. Spotless. But behind the scenes, 3 former business partners. All liquidated their shares for pennies before Preston flipped the projects for profit. One building inspector who resigned after mysteriously approving an unsafe structure. But the most telling pattern? He targeted married women, military wives, diplomatic spouses, CEOs' partners. He'd charm, advise, extract, then disappear, leaving financial ruin in his wake. He's a pattern predator, Bentley said. And Madeline's next. Brody stared out the window. I need custody leverage, he said, and fast. We have bruises on your son, a pattern of abuse, and a financial scam. Add one more thing. What? Brody's voice turned ice cold. Entrapment. If you've ever watched someone slowly try to erase you, in your home, in your child's life, in your career, type 2, because the only thing more dangerous than a man who's lost everything is one who starts taking it back. The letter came by courier. Heavy envelope, thick with embossed lettering, like it was announcing a gala, not a war. Superior Court of Fulton County. Notice of emergency hearing. Petition for full custody. Petitioner, Madeline Stanford Carter. Respondent, Broderick James Carter. Brody read it twice. Emergency hearing. Petition for full custody. Effective immediately. His chest tightened. He hadn't even filed yet. She was moving first. Fast. Just like Leona warned. Strike before the other side can build momentum. Brody called her on speaker. She answered on the 3rd ring. You got it, Leona said dryly. I did. She's framing you. The petition claims abandonment and emotional instability post-deployment. I've been back 12 days. She filed at 5. The courtroom wasn't what people imagined. No grand marble staircase, just plastic seats, cheap wood paneling, and a judge who looked like he was balancing 6 cases in his head at once. Madeline sat across from Brody, flanked by her lawyer, Rutherford, the same man who'd called him screaming over the frozen trust. She wore a gray pencil skirt, pearl earrings, and a face carved from cold resolve. Brody didn't look away, didn't flinch. The judge cleared his throat. Ms. Carter, your petition alleges that the respondent abandoned the family, has failed to reestablish contact with his children, and may be mentally unfit for co-parenting due to combat exposure. Is that correct? Rutherford stood. Yes, Your Honor. My client has attempted to preserve stability for the children during Mr. Carter's prolonged absences. Unfortunately, his return has introduced disruption, anxiety. I see, the judge interrupted. And Mr. Carter? Brody stood. I have evidence to the contrary, Your Honor, and I request that the court consider a temporary shared custody agreement until all facts are reviewed. The judge raised an eyebrow. Evidence? Leona slid a folder forward. Photos of Tyler's bruises. Email timestamps from Brody to the children. Voicemails left unanswered. Financial records showing Brody still paying school fees, therapy sessions, and health insurance while deployed. The judge flipped through it all, his expression unreadable. I'm granting temporary joint custody, he finally said. Pending full evaluation, children are to remain in Fulton County. No out-of-state or international travel without written court permission. Madeline's jaw tightened. Brody didn't smile. He just nodded. After the hearing in the hallway, Madeline caught up to him. "You think this is over?" she hissed. "That was a delay, not a victory." "It was the truth," Brody said. "You should try telling it sometime." "You left us, Brody. You left me." "I came home," he said flatly. "You just weren't there." The next day, Leona called with a grim update. "They're trying to move the house into her name only." "She can't," Brody replied. "It's marital. Preston's using his own firm to appraise it, claims you verbally surrendered your share during your absence." "Did I also verbally endorse his scam in Costa Rica?" Leona chuckled darkly. "You'll get to say that in court soon enough." Meanwhile, Brody met with Harris Bentley again. The PI slid over a thick folder. "Preston's development in Costa Rica? Total sham. No permits. No infrastructure. It's a shell for laundering money from real estate flipping." "And Madeline's tied in?" "She transferred $1.2 million from her trust into his project. He's using her as a front." Brody stared at the folder. "He's setting her up." "Yep. Any chance she knows?" Bentley hesitated. "Honestly? Probably not. She thinks she's building a future. He's building an escape route." That evening, Brody sat with Tyler and Emma for their first weekend visit. Tyler was quiet, but present. Emma, not so much. She stayed curled up in the corner, scrolling on her phone. After dinner, Brody tried. "Emma," he said gently, "do you want to talk?" She didn't look up. "Nope." "Okay. But I want you to know, I'm not here to replace anything. I just want to be in your life." She looked at him then, eyes hard. "Mom says you're pretending to care so you can take us away from her." "That's not true. She said you're using court tricks, that you're making up stories." Brody kept his voice calm. "I've never lied to you, Emma. She also said you left because you didn't want to deal with us anymore." "That was a lie." Emma stood. "How do I know? You were just gone." He let the silence stretch. "Because I wrote you every week," he said softly. "I have every single email, every photo you sent. I printed them in my bunk overseas. You kept me sane." She blinked fast, didn't respond. But later that night, she left her phone on the counter, face down, and sat on the couch next to him, quietly. The next day, Brody met again with Preston at a cafe. Neutral ground. "You're bold," Preston said, sipping his espresso. "After what you pulled in court." "You're lucky I didn't file assault charges," Preston chuckled. "What charges?" "You laid hands on my son." "Please." He was mouthy. I touched his arm. "You left bruises." Preston leaned forward. "You're not winning this, Brody. Madeline's not coming back. The kids are adapting. Why don't you walk away before you lose everything else?" Brody smiled. "Because I haven't lost yet." Later that week, Emma's school counselor called. "She's been withdrawn," the woman said. "Refuses to talk during group sessions." "Does she mention home?" "She says her stepfather, Preston's, is strict, that he watches her phone use, that she doesn't feel comfortable talking at home." Brody closed his eyes. "Thank you. I'll handle it." He took it to Leona. "Can we escalate?" he asked. "If we get one more incident? Yes, we go for full custody." "Good," Brody said, "because I'm done playing chess. It's time for checkmate." That night, Brody checked the surveillance cameras Wyatt had placed weeks ago. The feed from the front porch triggered. Madeline was talking to someone, not Preston. It was her brother, Eric. "You have to help me," she said, voice shaking. "I think I've made a mistake." Brody froze. Eric's face was unreadable. "What kind of mistake?" "Preston, the project, the house. I don't think it's real." "You think?" "I found some of the documents. The property doesn't exist. The contractor license is fake. He's been lying." Brody replayed it twice. Not because he needed to, but because it was the first time she'd cracked. The next morning, Madeline showed up at Brody's door. Alone. He didn't invite her in. "I'm not here to fight," she said. She took a breath. "I was wrong. About everything. About you. About Preston. I let him poison me against you." "I know," Brody said. "And now you want to fix it?"